Good morning, everyone. So, today we are going to start our sixth module. As far as fifth module is concerned, which is on conditioning of grinding wheel, that is truing and dressing. 3 videos have been recorded and they have been uploaded, and the required links have already been shared. So, please go through them. You are supposed to go through it today from 8 to 9. If you haven't gone through them, please go through it. That is your module 5. Module 5, as I have said in the video, is bit descriptive. I have tried my best to cover as much important information as required. However, those who are having the reference book, please go through the reference book, the relevant portion, not the whole portion, because the whole portion is not there as part of your deliverable. Today we are going to start lecture number 6.1. This is module 6 and this module is on wheel loading. What is wheel loading? Let us try to understand that. Before we go any further, let me once again So what is wheel loading? Wheel loading is loading or accumulation of cheap material at the intergrid space. Why does it occur? We will explain that. So this is one particular grid. This is one particular grid, maybe grid number 2. This is grid number 1 or grain number 1. This is moving in this particular direction and this is forming a chip. So this one, the entire region is the intergrid space, and this structure, whatever you can see here, is the chip which has loaded. So this is the loaded chip or accumulated chip at the intergrid space. So this is wheel loading. Now the problem is, if wheel loading occurs, why should we be bothered? So let us look at that. Why should we be bothered if wheel loading occurs? So once again, I have shown here, this is your grid number 1 or grid number 2. This is one particular grid. This is say grid number 2. This is grid number 1. Let us assume this is a vitrified bond. So this is your bond post which are holding the grid in place. This side is the inside of the grinding wheel, and this grinding wheel is rotating in this particular direction, and this space is the intergrid space. Who would decide how much intergrid space do you have? The amount of intergrid space is decided by, there are 3 phases if you recall: porosity, bond and grid. So this is decided by how much porosity you have in your grid, in your wheel. And if you recall, volume percentage of porosity is decided by the structure number, and in case of super abrasive wheel, this is decided by indirectly It is decided by concentration. So this is the intergrid space, and if I have a chip which is interlocked here, if I have a loaded chip at the intergrid space, then that phenomena is called wheel loading. So ultimately, to analyze this problem, I have to decide, I have to find out how much intergrid space is there. Today we will not go into the analysis, we will just describe the phenomena. Only one thing I will say, that intergrid space is decided by how much is there. So this is your bond, this is your bond. So this is your bond post. This is the inside of the grid wheel. This is the level of bond. So this is bond level. This one is DG, but the entire DG is not protruded. Only a part of it is protruded, and this protrusion we will call as RP. So this is decided by RP, and this is also decided by what is the center to center distance between two grids. And this center to center distance LG, it is related to your grid density. How is it related? This is the mesh or a sheave to which you have done the sheaving for determination of mesh size, and in that particular sheave or this particular structure you have your grids which are much smaller, but on the face of the grinding wheel these are the way the grids are arranged. How much is the distance between these two? Distance between these two is LG. So how many grids should be there per linear millimeter? 1 upon LG. So how much would be C? C would be 1 upon LG square. So LG is nothing but root over 1 upon C. This particular analysis would be required. How to find out RP and all that we will do, but try to understand, if you are having uniform distribution, this is very important, then only this particular thing is valid. Unfortunately in grinding wheel things are not uniform. So in that particular case, when you calculate LG using this particular equation, what you get is the average representation of the pitch. So we can call it as a pitch between the grids. How to calculate RP? That is the protrusion. We will not talk today about RP. We will talk about it only in a later class. So now let us see what is it. What is wheel loading? So this is your grid 1. This is your grid 1. This is your grid 2. This already has been written as bond post. And this is the intergrid space. This is a chip which has got loaded. How it has got loaded? Primarily, mechanism of loading is mechanical interlocking. So this is the primary mechanism of wheel loading, mechanical interlocking. You have some space LG. The length of the chip is such that it got mechanically interlocked. So this is wheel loading. Now, why does it happen? There are three constraints. If they are violated, then wheel loading takes place. So there are three reasons. If they are violated, then the chance of wheel loading goes up. This is a probabilistic analysis. So I would say chance of wheel loading goes up. What are those three reasons? Length constraint. Your length of the chip is more than pitch or the intergrid space, the length of the intergrid space. So if that is violated, then the probability of wheel loading goes up. volume constraint. Your volume of the chip, please recall, we have calculated volume of the chip by using this particular formula. That was the chip groove. The volume of the chip would be same because on chip formation volume doesn't change. So this chip groove that we calculated earlier, that would be very useful now. Okay, so volume of the chip, if this particular thing, if the volume of the chip is more than volume of the intergrid space, then once again the probability of wheel loading will go up. We know how to calculate this. We do not know how to do this as yet. We will learn that. Length constraint, once again, length constraints, we will learn how to calculate length of the chip, but today not. We will simply address what are the reason. Another one is thickness. Thickness variation is this one. This is the thickness of the chip, as you can see. So this is the thickness of the chip. If this thickness variation takes place, so thickness of the chip, if I say this is A2, so this A2 maximum thickness of the chip, if it is more than RP, then also your probability of wheel loading would go up. I just need to check whether anyone is waiting in the class or not. I think there is one who is work. No, there is no one. So everyone has joined. Those who are supposed to join. So these are the problems or constraints. If they are violated, then the wheel loading takes place. Wheel loading means what? Accumulation of chip at the intergrid space. Now, what kind of properties or characteristics influence wheel loading or increases the chance of wheel loading? We are assuming that this is the entire length of the chip from this end to this end. So if your chips are long unbroken chips, we have seen while studying chip characteristics, you can have irregular chips, you can have long shear type chips, you can have broken chips, you can have spherical chips, you can have leafy chips, you can have tadpole type chips, what not, all of them we have discussed. But if you have primarily long shear type chips which are unbroken, then the chance of wheel loading will go up. For what kind of material this would be more? If the material is more ductile, then the chance will go up. If the material is brittle, if it is hard, then the chance of wheel loading will go down. If it is more ductile, then the chance of wheel loading will go up. If it is brittle and hard, chances are instead of long unbroken chips, there would be chip breaking and you will get shorter length and there would be less probability of wheel loading. Then metallurgical bonding between the grid tip and wheel material. This is a strange thing. This typically happens for super alloys. When you are grinding super alloys, primarily for titanium alloys. It doesn't happen to that extent for nickel. So if you are grinding titanium alloys, titanium alloy is such a fella, it tries to mingle with everyone. It adheres to everything, reacts with everything. Whether you are using CBN or diamond or conventional wheels, irrespective of that, this is the grit. As you can see, this is the chip which has adhered to the grit tip. So it hasn't gone to the intergrid space, but it has adhered to the grit chip. So this kind of adherence once again promotes wheel loading. In the next pass, possibly this chip will restrict chip formation and leads to more wheel loading. Another one is sticky materials. Typically, if you are using trying to grind stainless steel is not typically ground. Machining is good enough for required finish. But if you are trying to grind stainless steel or low carbon steel, once again low carbon steel is not ground to that extent. But if you are trying to grind them, they are much more sticky or adhesive material. They also get inside the intergrid space and stick to it. But primarily, once again, the mechanism is twofold. One is mechanical interlocking, which takes place because of length constraint, volume constraint and thickness constraint. And there is one more kind of thing, which is chemical or metallurgical adherence of the chip material at the grid tip, which promotes wheel loading. So these are the two mechanisms of wheel loading. Now, if wheel loading takes place, what is our problem? This is a grid. This is a chip. This is a chip, loaded chip, which has loaded in nth pass, and this is another chip which has loaded in n plus 1th pass. So in this way, the whole intergrid space will be filled up. So if it happens, what is the problem? First problem is reduction in effective intergrid space. Initially you had so much of intergrid space. Now you have only this much of intergrid space. So as wheel loading takes place, intergrid space reduces. That means when the next chip forms, it doesn't have space to flow. Rake angle becomes more negative. Please look at this particular grid. Please look at this particular grid. This is the boundary of the grid. This was Vs, this was pi r, this is the rake surface. So this was gamma. Once this chip gets locked, this face of the chip, the grid can no longer form the further chip. A new chip would rub against this particular surface. So if it rubs against this particular surface, then rake angle becomes this one. Effective rake angle becomes more positive. So effective rake angle becomes more positive. Further chip formation is hindered. Why further chip formation is hindered? The chip would not be able to flow. Already if you can see between this pink chip and the green chip, there is some interaction here. So if there is some interaction, there would be rubbing. If there is rubbing, you would have problem. What kind of problem? We will talk about it. Rubbing between the new chip and loaded chip, just now I have explained. Rubbing between the work material and loaded chip. This I have not explained, but please try to understand, if this intergrid space is completely loaded with new chips, so this is no longer intergrid space. This is completely loaded with chip material. This is completely loaded with chip material. Then in the next pass, this chip material would rub against the work surface. So that is rubbing of work material with wheel load, with the loaded chips. What would happen because of that? I will come to that later on. All this reduction in intergrid space, more rake angle, and all these would lead to increase in force. If force increases, increase in specific energy, increase in temperature. If temperature increases, what would happen? The work material would become more ductile, because at higher temperature ductility increases. So chip length would increase, so the chance of wheel loading would become more and more. So that is another problem. And there is the problem of redeposition. Redeposition comes from where? Redeposition comes from this point. What is redeposition? Rubbing between work material and loaded chip. This leads to deposition of this chip back onto the grinding on the ground surface. You want your ground surface to be clean. It should give you proper tolerance and surface finish. But unfortunately, what you are having on the ground surface, you have enormous amount of redeposition. For your information, this is a titanium surface which has been ground, and as you can see, so much redeposition has occurred. What is redeposition? The chips which were loaded, they have come back and got redeposited on the ground surface. There are other mechanisms of redeposition. Redeposition can also take place in case of titanium alloy from grid tip, but in this particular case, this happened because of wheel loading. This is a surface where wheel loading did not take place. It was free of wheel loading, and as you can see, the number of redeposition is very, very less. Possibly this redeposition has come from grid tip adhesion, from that kind of thing. So as you can see, wheel loading is not a good phenomenon. Why is it not? Because ultimately it increases the force. If it increases the force, how are we affected? If it increases the force, the UG goes up. As UG goes up, though you do not know this relation, but this relation is there, theta, that is ground surface temperature, is a function of UG. The temperature goes up. As the temperature goes up, you have further wheel loading because of the chips becoming much more ductile. Now, these are actual experimental data. This is for stainless steel being ground by a conventional wheel, and this is what happens. I will come to the actual experimental data later on, but I will come to this one. What happens during grinding, during wheel loading? So you will expect initially the forces will go up. The blue one is Ft, the red one is Fn. Fn is more than Ft. If it is metallic alloys, Fn would be 2 to 2.5 times Ft. So these things are observed here. Initially, the your forces are going up. This is first phase. In the second phase, forces are more or less constant. Particularly Ft is more or less constant. Now in the third phase, it starts going up drastically, and then a stage comes where you get sudden reduction in the forces, and then they are once again stable. What are these? These are number of passes. If you look here, the same thing is happening. Initial increase, then more or less stable, then it gradually goes up, then it once again falls, and then the cycle repeats. So fifth stage and first stage is similar. So whatever we are explaining theoretically, that can also be seen experimentally. Now, why these are happening? What is this? This number one phase already we have seen. This is spark in phase. That means gradually your set in feed is set down feed or in feed is approaching the actual material removal. So that is happening. This is this particular phase. Second phase also we have seen. This is steady state. This is steady state grinding. If your set is 20 micron, your A in this is also 20 micron. And in this is 20 micron and A is approaching AS. In the third phase, what is happening? In the third phase, the wheel loading is taking place. In the third phase, the wheel loading is taking place. So possibly a grit has lodged itself and reduced the intergrid space, so the forces have gone up, and that is happening. As that happens in a single pass, in the next pass more wheel loading takes place, the intergrid space gets loaded with more amount of chip material, you have more rake angle, so gradually the forces will go up, and thus the forces are going in the upward direction as more and more particles are getting loaded. Then a stage comes where all of a sudden forces starts dropping. This particular phase, so this third phase is the wheel loading phase. The fourth phase is called auto sharpening phase, stage, auto sharpening stage. Now what is happening here? This is the expression. This is the maximum tangential force. Please look here, I have multiplied it by 2 because this is average. So as this goes up, the amount of force coming on a particular grid, that also goes up. As that is happening, so this is a outer grid. As more and more force is coming here, there would be bond fracture and this grit will come out. Not only the grit will come out, the loaded chip particle which was there at this particular intergrid space, that will also come out. So what is happening at this stage is that because of too much of force, this outer layer grits along with the loaded particle, they will come out. This should have been much more sharp. This happens over 3 to 5 passes and it comes down to a normal level. Once it comes down to a normal level, then your grinding wheel is completely devoid of any wheel loading. A fresh sharp grits have been exposed and they once again participate in grinding process. So this fifth stage is once again steady state grinding. Once again steady state grinding, but this grinding is happening with a fresh set of grits which have been exposed, which are very, very sharp. How they have been exposed? They have been exposed because the external grits have been removed by the auto sharpening process. Why the external grits have been removed? External grits have been removed for the simple reason the force coming onto a particular grit was too much, and for that particular reason they got removed. How they were removed? They were removed by bond fracture. So that means I'll replicate this particular slide once again to explain something else. So that means okay, so that for that I need to do that. So please wait. Yeah. So questions we need to ask. Wheel loading, what are the factors that will affect it? First and foremost, we talked about length of chip, volume of chip, and thickness of chip. Thickness of chip, uncut chip thickness is HM. This is not cut chip thickness, this is uncut chip thickness. Volume of chip, we know how to calculate. Volume of chip is once again related to HM. Length of chip, I have not talked about. What is HM then? HM is so it seems if you increase HM, your chance of wheel loading would increase. In other words, HM is related to VW and A. So one can say if you increase MRR, then the wheel loading chance will increase, which is true. What about VS? If you increase VS, HM reduces. This is qualitative analysis. Quantitative analysis we are not doing today. We will do that. If VS increases, HM reduces. So wheel loading chance will go down. What should happen to C? If I increase C, HM reduces. Can I say at this stage chance of wheel loading goes down? We cannot, because try to recall, we have calculated LG as 1 upon C. So as C goes up, this particular quantity goes down. That means the intergrid space would be affected. So the effect of C is not so straightforward. What are the other things that are there? Other thing that is there is from the wheel side. Wheel side, already we have said, it is primarily decided by intergrid space. Intergrid space, there are three kinds. One is RP, one is LG, and combination of that is the intergrid volume, the expression for which we haven't determined today. There is one more interesting thing which happens wheel loading, which is your hardness. Your hardness affects where the auto sharpening will take place. Would it take place after lot many passes, or would it take place only after few passes? Why? Because Ft max at which auto sharpening takes place would take place when Ft max is this than this particular value, which is the bond strength, or which is related to bond strength. So if bond strength is low, your auto sharpening will take place readily. If your bond strength is high, then your auto sharpening would not take place readily. So for a soft wheel, auto sharpening takes place readily, whereas for a hard wheel, auto sharpening is delayed. Auto sharpening is delayed. Now the question is auto sharpening good? Is it desirable? First of all, wheel loading is not desirable. If wheel loading is taking place, that means you have your choice of process parameter for that particular wheel is wrong. What do I mean by that? You have taken a wheel with less intergrid space. That means it is not an open wheel, it is a closed wheel. And despite that, you are trying to grind at a high material removal rate. You should avoid that. But unknowingly, if wheel loading has taken place, is auto sharpening good? Yes, if you are doing rough grinding, then auto sharpening is good. Why? Because in rough grinding, if auto sharpening takes place, the dimension of the wheel will change. So the tolerance that you are trying to get, that you will not be getting, which is not acceptable in case of finished grinding. In case of finished grinding, auto sharpening is not acceptable. In case of finished grinding, forget about auto sharpening, wheel loading is not acceptable. Why? Because if wheel loading takes place, forces will go up, specific grinding energy will go up, temperature will go up, and you would have the problem of high temperature. Because of high temperature, more wheel loading will take place, temperature will go up further, and your product quality will deteriorate, because as such in grinding, workpiece temperature is very high, and if the temperature goes up further, you would have crack, you would have tensile residual stress, you would have redeposition on the surface, and ultimately in the final stage, your workpiece would not be acceptable. What do you mean by that? A workpiece has come through this particular route. What are the routes? It has been forged. After forging, it has been machined. After that, it has been heat treated. Then you are grinding. And during the grinding stage, you could not understand that wheel loading is taking place. You went ahead with it. And after that, you find out that on your ground surface, you have cracks, tensile residual stress and whatnot. So after so much of value addition, money addition, you have to throw away that product or component as scrap. This is not acceptable. And for that reason, wheel loading should be avoided by all means. How do you avoid that? We will come to that. We will come to that, but not today. Today we will close it here. So this was the introduction to wheel loading. Tomorrow we will analyze wheel loading, and after that analysis will tell you for a given wheel and for a given set of material removal rate, if you have 4 such cases, which one is more prone to wheel loading and which one is less prone to wheel loading. You would not be able to come up with a final deterministic answer because grinding is not a deterministic process. Why is it not a deterministic process? Let us go to a very simple thing. Let us go to a very simple thing. Let us come here. This LG has been determined as 1 upon square root of 1 upon C, provided you have uniform density, uniform grid density. Uniformly grids are distributed, but grids are never uniformly distributed. Only one case I have shown you, that was for braced wheel. If you recall, please go through that particular video, you will be able to see. Other than that, most of the time grids are not uniformly distributed. So when you calculate LG, that LG is the average representation. So our analysis would also be average representation. Our analysis is very good. If there are 4-5 cases, you will be able to say case number 3 is least prone to wheel loading and possibly case number 5 is most prone to wheel loading. And then you have to decide which one to take. So now what I will do is that I will come out, I'll save this